Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Nothing But the Truth with me, your host, Reverend Dr. Brett Allen Dillon, presidential candidate for 2028. I want to start this evening by apologizing to you for not posting, not being on here for pretty much the entire month of April. And unlike other candidates who don't share anything about their private lives because to them, you know, it's all about them. But obviously, you guys know I'm not like that. This past month, I've been dealing with my grandmother, who I've always called Granny, and my son calls her Granny Girl. She was initially put in a hospice house on April 1st. And then within a week, she was in the hospital, and, the side of her face started to change color and swell. And, then, it's just started small, but then, within either less than a day, no more than 24 hours. I mean, it was from here all the way down her neck to her throat and everything else. So they were guessing that it was shingles. And I'm like, and there was quite a few times to where, we were told, to be there as a family that, because they didn't know if she was going to make it through the day. But they did tell us that somebody, has to be there with her 24 hours at the hospital, um, pretty much just in case she codes. The reason why I'm sharing this with you is because you guys know I'm not like every other candidate. I'm one of you. I don't put myself on some kind of pedestal. I don't put myself on some kind of high horse, or ivory tower and look down on you like you're nothing. Because I am one of you. And that is why I've chosen to be your guys' voice. That is why I'm fighting for you guys so hard. And I'm going to continuously fight for you guys with every single ounce of my being. I will fight. And the reason for this is because right now is the most crucial time for America to come together in unity. What we don't need is to wait for either a mass casualty event for, we have pissed off the entire world, literally, with, between our allies and even nations that, we were touch and go with, but still traded with because of, the tariff wars and the fact that Trump, the dictator Trump, and the Antichrist Musk is literally putting a financial gun to their head and saying, you're going to do and trade on our terms, or, and that's what it's come to. No other president in history has done it. I mean, maybe to a few countries, especially, depending upon the tension, the area, and everything else, but not to the entire world, not to every country that we deal with, whether it be import, export, whatever. Because guess what? If any of them decide to stop exporting or import, stop exporting to us or stop importing our goods, and if you guys haven't noticed, you've seen, you know, uh, Xi Jinping or whatever his name is, um, the dipshit that's the head of China, that dictator or authoritarian, and the leader or prime minister of Japan, and also I think it was Singapore, you know, regions that, I mean, we work very closely with Japan, you know, and we work very closely with Singapore and the Philippines and all that other stuff. But now China's seeing this as a chance to say, hey, you don't have to ship to the US. We can help you ship this, that, and the other. Now, here's the thing that I also want to tell you guys. And I'm going to remind you that there's a reason why I called my presidential podcast Nothing But the Truth. If you go back to gcdnetwork.com or to any of the prior podcasts to the dictator being inaugurated and the Antichrist being his right hand man in the Oval Office, I told you guys that the stock market would crash down to recession level like 208, which we are very close to, by the way. And then by the end of the year, it would be like the 1930s crash. Funny thing is that now I am not the only one discussing it. Now, all of a sudden, where you have MSNBC and CNN and Fox and, to where Fox and all them, are over here who are always, kissing the president's ass, the dictator's ass, and saying how great of a job he is. And here's MSNBC saying, well, hey, what about this stuff? They have cohesively been reporting the same thing about the problems when it comes to the effect that these tariffs and everything else are causing. The cutting off of funding, and everything else. I told you guys that, they were going to, even though, he swore up and down that the dictator Trump swore up and down that he would have absolutely nothing to do with Project 2025, that he never looked into it. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know their directives, blah, blah, blah. But yet, he has done everything just about to a T as the Project 2025 playbook. I called that and predicted that. I predicted that he would not lower the gas prices nor the food prices like he promised over and over and over. I mean, that's pretty much what he ran his campaign on, was that he was going to make life better for us Americans. Well, it seems like he's still making it great for the 1% and the 1% of the 1%, but not us, the 99%. They're talking about the fact that, and this is what pisses me off the most, okay? Is that those who are in the 1% or the 1% of the 1%, they are only paying 27% tax to the government on everything. Now, whereas regular everyday citizens right now, we are paying 35, and it is going to go up, up by probably no later than June to almost, I think it's another 10 to 15%. But get this, for all the corporate assholes, all the 1% and the 1% of the 1%, oh, they're going to go up one, I'm sorry, one, maybe 2%. That is what I say to Flump and to the dictator and the Antichrist who are running things in the White House, is that we're going to, the 99% towards federal taxes is going to be increased to where instead of being 35 or 36%, it will be anywhere from 43 to 47%. And that the most that the 1% or the 1% of the 1% will pay maybe 29, but no less than 28%. Now, sorry, that's just for the 1%. Now, for the 1% of the 1%, guess what? They only pay because of the corporation tax breaks and the billionaire tax breaks and all that. Yeah, they're only going to have to pay maybe 17 or 18%. I think maybe it might go past 20 a little bit. That's it. So instead of taking from those who have in excess of, they're going to go instead and rape the American people with nobody standing in their way. How messed up is that? That is why I continue to fight for you guys, is because you deserve somebody who is not only going to fight for you, but who is going to ensure 1,000% that when I'm elected, it'll be reversed. I swear to you, that is how it's going to be, because it's time for them to start actually paying versus, and the reason why the dictator is doing this is because he wants zero, and I mean absolute zero sum in mathematics, Zero sum means absolute zero. So he wants to make sure that there is zero sum distinction between the classes, because it's either you're up here, or you're not worth anything. And that's what doesn't make any sense to me. And I know that a lot of you are going to be scratching your heads going, but I already get so much taken out. I already pay this, I already pay that. Guess what? Gabe, take him outside. Sorry about that. My son just got a new puppy. But the thing is that, you guys are the ones that are again are going to get stuck holding the shitty end of the stick, and to where they treat us like shit anyway. I told you guys that even prior to his inauguration, that things would get worse as far as it being modern day slavery, to where we're going to be bought, sold, and traded, for the lowest price, whether that means losing your job, whether that means which means your job being exported to some other country where a corporation can pay somebody a lot cheaper, or to where because right now the unemployment rate is starting to creep up. And here's the thing, is that last time I checked, the unemployment rate as it stands right now has not been this bad since the beginning of Flump's first term in office. The only thing is then he actually cared, kind of, and started to lower unemployment. But this time it's going to be a complete reversal. Now, this here on my shirt, there's a reason why I have the lion tonight, is because the job of the lion, the head of the pride, is to protect, watch over, keep safe, and make sure that the pride is cohesive, kept together, that and everything else, to be there for each one of his members. So that is why I'm wearing this, is because I've promised, when I ran last year, one of the things that I promised, and I still will keep the promise of, but there's a few things I'm going to add. The main promise that I'm going to be keeping to you guys is that when I'm elected, is I'm going to reestablish and rebuild the Department of Education, and to where, since the the Civil Rights Act was signed 60 years ago, to where equal opportunity employment and all that became available, but there was never anything about equal opportunity education. Why is that? Oh, that's right. Because back then, they still never wanted anybody else who wasn't white to succeed and everything else, even though a lot of amazing people from different cultures, from different race, creed, color, sex, all of that, between NASA, between, inventing the air conditioning, between, inventing so many different things that make our lives easier today, but yet they don't get the credit for it because, it's the fact that it's back to the good old boys club. But even still, throughout changes that have been made since the 60s, over the past 60 years, here's the problem. We as a society have barely changed. We are just about no better than we were back in 1965. And the reason why I say this is for the simple reason that if you look at it, there's discrimination still in the job, in all jobs. Yeah, sure, there may be equal opportunity employment, but not equal opportunity pay. From being a female or anybody of, you know, who's not a white heterosexual male continues to get paid less, doing the same positions, everything else. So, unless it's a black owned business, but even black owned or any other ethnic owned or culturally owned, any of that, they get scrutinized and audited so much more than the good old boys club. That is going to stop. Why? Because there's this thing called the 14th Amendment that's supposed to give you equal opportunity rights, and that you are supposed to, that literally the I Have a Dream speech by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that all colors, all creeds, all races, shall one day come together and be unified and see each other as human beings. We still don't do that today. One is, thank you to the Karens of the United States. Two is thank you to, the Klansmen, the neo Nazis, the white supremacists, and all you other, dumb fucks, the Aryan race, and all you other dumb fucks who, think that, white is right. No, I can tell you that for a fact. No, because you guys have been, pushing your bullshit in the South for, you know, before and after the Civil War. You guys really ain't changed a fucking thing since the Civil War. And yet you wonder why people have a stigma about you, because you guys aren't the one changing. I mean, it's now 2025, but we still have sunset states. We still have the KKK burning crosses in people's yards and threatening people and hanging, people for no fucking reason. And, neo Nazis and white supremacists and Aryan and this and that. We have all you stupid fucks who are going out there and just for any reason whatsoever, you know, deciding to harm someone because they're not white. Well, what I want you stupid fucks to do is I want each and every one of you to do the 23andMe, the genealogy test. And I guarantee you that you're not all going to come back all white, all white descent. And first, I'm going to laugh at you. Second, I'm going to tell you, I told you so. And third, I mean, besides, hating just to fucking hate, I'm going to ask you now what's your reason? Because that's the thing, is that you guys claim, that you're pure. Prove it. And even if you don't have any Indian, when I say Indian, I mean original Americans, not Native Americans, original Americans. Um, or any other ethnicity, race, color, creed, whatever. You know, guess what? That still doesn't make you wrong for what you did. And I can tell you right now that when I'm elected, the hate crime law that Obama put forth during his, I think it was towards the end, it was either middle or end of his first term, which was the James Byrd Jr. and um, Matthew Shepard hate crime act. Because it was a gay white boy who was tortured, tied to tied to a fence, who was beaten and left for dead. James Byrd Jr. He got lured. He had just asked for a ride, and they took him. It was three white men who were charged with this, but it's three or four. They beat him. I mean, unmercifully beat him. Then they decided that wasn't good enough. So, they decided, oh, well, and offensive or not, you know, you guys are the ones who, especially those of you who are on the far right, you've been okay with this, with segregation and all the stuff that they've been doing. And on the far left, it's the fact that you guys just bury your head in the sand like an ostrich. But in the courtroom, you can read the transcripts. Their exact words were, "We ain't done with this nigger. It needs to be more." we're going to leave him as an example, as if they don't heed what we say or do what we say. They chained him to the back of their truck. They drugged him for a mile, then left his body. And they did this. They started this in the evening, you know, and he thought, they pretended to be nice to him, and even though he was in the South, and he was scared, but anyway. And here's the thing: this is not like it happened in the '60s or '70s or '80s. I believe this was late '90s. Yeah, this was. I'm sorry, early to mid '90s is when this happened. Same with Matthew Shepard. Um, so they chained him to the back of the truck, drug him about a mile or more, and left his body in front of a black church, Black Baptist church, as a warning. And the thing is that they actually had to measure out, because James Byrd Jr.'s body had left a trail of blood from where they started dragging him out of, well, once they drug him out of the woods, he was already bleeding from the beating, but, as they drug him to where there was maybe half to a third of his body left. Like I said, so, but nowadays, even when things are a hate crime, nothing's done. So when I'm elected, guess what? Just like when it comes to anything dealing with sex crimes, when it comes to going and doing things to minors, child pornography, the predators, the child molesters, and all that other stuff. Yeah, I'm coming for you. And if you think I'm joking, I'll narrow down this for you for a reason. Is because to show I'm not scared of any single one of you, and of the fact that I got to conceal and carry. But I don't need that. God gave me these. So, if any of you out there, who are, who absolutely hate anyone from the LGBTQ plus community, any of you, fucktards who are, Klansmen or neo-Nazis or white supremacists, or, to where you hate anything that's not white. Let's just put it plainly. Come find me in Carroll County, Maryland. That's how much I want to narrow it down. Is because not too many people in Carroll County that don't know me. So I can tell you right now, this is why I'm showing you I'm willing to put my life on the line for every single person in this country. But for you child molesters, you predators, you child pornography addicts, and everything else, and those of you who are in the human trafficking, sex trafficking, or anything else, And like I said, all you other dumb fucks who, are against anyone who's not white, come stand in my face, man to man. And I guarantee you that you will either have to kill me or make it to where, somehow, to where, my brain's not telling me to get up because I won't stop. And I can tell you right now that everybody matters. And even though that I hate child molesters, I hate racist pieces of shit of those against the LGBTQ plus community, those against anybody who's not white, those who hate just to hate, Now, I can tell you, I will not hit a woman, but that does not mean that, I don't have a woman who won't stand there and beat the shit out of you. Because I know a lot of people would be on my side. So, but even you out there who hate just to hate, yeah, you have constitutional rights. But this is your one and only warning as far as committing any further killings, jumpings, and and while I'm at it, just so y'all don't think I'm targeting this one half, to all the brothers and sisters out there who, are part of my family as well, y'all need to stop as well. Because, y'all think that, and y'all sit there and say how much you hate, all the racist pieces of shit, this, that, and the third, but yet y'all the ones out there also who are either, jumping our own community members or jumping somebody who's white, but y'all doing it 6, 7, 10, 12 on one. So yeah, this goes out to y'all too. Come to Carroll County, Maryland. Because enough is enough is enough. Hate has been embedded in our country for far too long. It's time that we actually unify. It's time that we actually come together as a pride, as a community, as one, for the first time to be the United States of America instead of the divided states of America. Because that's what we truly are. They named our country wrong. Now, with that said, I want you guys to pay attention. I want you guys to hear me, especially the youth, because y'all think this is a game. Y'all think that, oh, well, you know, all this will, go off my record when I'm 18, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? You now have a dictator and the Antichrist in the White House who are making sure that, uh, both federally and are pushing, you know, the governors of states to change the legal age of being able to be charged as an adult. Yeah, you might not get death, but you'll get life, which means that you'll be eligible for parole after 30 years. So if you're 15, 16, 17 years old, or almost 18, yeah, you might start out in juvie, but look at all the things that are going on in juvie. So I'm just warning you can right now make a choice. And I'm talking about my brothers and sisters who, from the blocks, from the hoods, from the ghettos, to all of my extended family on all the reservations, because I am also Blackfoot, Cherokee, and Sioux. I'm also speaking to the travelers. Formerly, we called ourselves gypsies. But I'm also even talking to you guys out there who are being raised in the hate nation and are carrying on the exact same thing that your parents were taught, that they've embedded in you, which is to either hate anybody who wasn't you and to anybody who's not white. Yeah, still, I at this point right now, I still wouldn't trust the police because they're still shooting, killing, and murdering innocent people have who are no threat, who have no gun in their hand, who, you know, I mean, for shit's sake, we have tasers, we have bean bags, we have rubber bullets. There's so many different, mechanisms that are, that can take somebody down, who isn't pointing a loaded weapon or shooting at the police to where they can be taken down. But are they utilized? No, because they reach for the kill switch first. So, to the officers out there, yes, I understand that you guys face danger every day. But at the same time, when you have backup and you're not alone and everything else, you're supposed to have lethal, non lethal. Stop using the choice of both going lethal automatically. Tired of it. America's tired of it. You guys are the ones we're supposed to trust and go to, and then you wonder why there's so many cold cases. Come on. I mean, it's bad enough that, right now we're staring down the barrel of either Civil War 2.0, everything that's going on in Central to, to northern, central, and west and Africa, with the Sudanese and Somalian and all those other countries fighting and everything else, where terrorist organizations like ISIS are thriving and everything else, and nothing's being done by, any other country because they expect America to do it. But, then we have everything that's going on in Israel. And I know a lot of you are going to think I'm crazy, but I want you to look this definition up. I want you to look up the gift of discernment, because, and like I said, you guys may think I'm crazy, but how do you think I've been able to explain to you how everything has gone so far? Somebody who has a gift of discernment is somebody who uh, has been blessed with being a vessel to receive messages from God through the Holy Spirit. Now, I can tell you that when Benjamin Netanyahu gives the Gaza Strip to the dictator and the Antichrist, that by next year, rapture is going to happen, because the promise that comes along with Trump, the dictator, and the Antichrist Musk with Benjamin Netanyahu of giving them the Gaza Strip is that we, the U.S., help rebuild, the temple that was destroyed. So, plus looking at the situation between Russia and Ukraine and Syria and Venezuela and, all the stuff happening in El Salvador and all that other stuff, we are staring down the barrel of the gun of World War III as well. But we can change this if we choose to. Now, people think that my campaign slogan, which still stands, is "Together we thrive." It says that it's "Together we thrive" for a reason, is because it's the same as when voices were raised without riots, without violence, and we took to the streets and we marched and we protested and everything else, and our voices were heard. That's what it takes, is unity. When a city like Flint had had enough and everyone came together because of the lead water and, took on a state, an entire state, not just their county, but an entire state. And they won, and they pushed until the government got involved. But what I'm saying is that that's what I'm trying to explain, is that if we unite and if we truly use our voices, I promise you that I'm going to help, because there is a constitutional code and a federal code to where we can actually have the entire Trump administration, with him being a dictator, and the Antichrist Musk, and all of America being broken and everything else fixed. But we've got to do it together. So that is why, like I said, unlike AOC, unlike everybody else who is starting, their campaign run and everything else, they are talking about themselves, what they've done, and they've done already, sold themselves to the highest bidder, which, let's not forget that our dictator, instead of trying to improve our economy and everything else, he decided to put out his own coin, which has zero sum monetary value in the real world. It's not even gold, it's like gold plated, but it has zero sum value. But it's what, 27 people, businesses, executives, everything else. The top 27 who have purchased the most of these coins, which, by the way, all this money is going into our dictator's pocket, and he's also sharing it with the Antichrist Musk, which is illegal. And Vance is a part of this as well, in order to meet the dictator at his private residence in Mar-a-Lago, in order to be able to see how much they'll give him in order to, lift certain taxes, embargoes, tariffs, all of that. Why do you think that he held the golf tournament with Saudi Arabia? And that's not a hush hush thing. It was televised, for shit's sake, and promoted. And that's exactly what it was for. Is that the White House is not supposed to be some kind of brothel, some kind of whorehouse, or the nicest looking building on the red light district. Because the office of president should never be for sale. The position of president, and vice president going along with it, and having and having the Antichrist, who has no actual title, but yet has the highest clearance in the United States, which means that even, he has even higher clearance than some generals. He has, yeah. So, aren't you guys tired of this? Haven't you guys had enough? Because guess what? I'm going to let you know another prediction, since I have a little bit of time left. That by the end of July, we're not going to see prices fall. For the most, well, maybe some things we will, but we're going to continue to see milk go up, eggs go up, meats go up. We're going to continue to see avocados, lumber, a lot of things go up to where it's going to start sending us back into around the recession that happened in 2008 or worse. Also, We're going to see the stock market be down even further than it is now. There might be little jumps here and there, but I'm telling you, it's going down. But that's not who I am for you guys. Everything I've ever said has not been to just bash the dictator and the antichrist in the Oval Office, because they're already proving themselves. And for all of you out there who commented and claimed that I was wrong, that I'm just a Democrat or a far leftist or anything else, guess what? I would like within the next 5 days for an apology, because I've proven everybody right. I've not spoken a word that was wrong or ill. So take heed to what I say. And I promise you guys that I'm here for you. Right, wrong, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm here for you guys. I'm here to build us a better country, back to it being prosperous with jobs and everything else. I'm not in it for the corporation. So remember, together we thrive. Divided, we fall. And as always, may God, Yeshua, and the Holy Spirit bless you, your family, your loved ones, your friends, protect you from your enemies, protect you from the enemy. Shalom, shalom, and assalamu alaikum. You guys have a good night, and I promise you, I will see you next week. Good night.